Hey guys, this is AJ, just getting back from seeing the BFG, which I'm sorry I didn't get to see it opening weekend, but I'm here now to give some quick thoughts on how I felt about it, and how it held up overall in my top 10 BFG moments. Which I encourage you to see my list first, and although, do give the movie a chance if you haven't already. I heard it's not doing well, mostly because of its competition, and I'd really hate for this movie to be considered a bomb. Although, much like my Wander Over Yonder series finale review, this is just going to be a minimum editing, quick thoughts, whatever background music I can find most fitting kind of deal. And I might do something better later on for friend, which I actually am going to do with my Wander Over Yonder review. For now, let's get the big stuff out of the way of what I didn't like with this movie. Cause if you have seen my list and then the movie, you'll know not everything I wanted, predicted, made it in. Which is fine. If I had two things I was most disappointed in, it'd be with the other giants and the lack of the Snozcumber. Which it wasn't as if both elements weren't in the movie, there just wasn't enough of them, I felt. In the Man-Eating Giant case, I kind of felt like they were made too kid-friendly and didn't feel nearly as threatening as they were in the book or even the animated version. If I'm personally honest, I think that was one of the few things the animated adaptation did the best with. Those giants looked like they were real monsters. You honestly believe they could eat children without actually seeing them in action. Yet in this movie, their designs felt a little too human, which was something I was fearful when I first saw them in the trailer, but I at least held hope that they would at least act more like man-eating monsters. They didn't. If anything, they just came across more as stupid playground bullies who, for some reason, are afraid of water. It works well enough, I guess, except you're scratching your head wondering why they have a fear of water till you learn how the BFG protects himself, and instead of being put in a hole in the ground at the end of the story, they're instead put on an island, which, speaking of, the Snozcumber. Again, it was there, and they even did a good job making it look disgusting. The trouble was, it just didn't feel disgusting. Like, in the book, and again, animated version, the BFG made a whole scene about just what a chore and sacrifice it was to eat them. Here, it doesn't seem that he's in that much pain gulping down his dinner, and Sophie and Bloodboiler didn't even get a taste, which was supposed to make the scene later on where the BFG is having an actual good breakfast for the first time with the Queen feel satisfying. We felt for him in the book no longer having to eat Snozcumbers, and it made you feel more satisfaction when the other giants are made to eat them as punishment for their sins. Again, I don't think it was bad. We even got a neat little bit at the end where it suggests that his favorite drink is made out of Snozcumbers, which if you read the book again, there's actually a lot you can interpret with it, but I just don't think it was executed as well as it could have been. With that said, let's get to some of the good stuff this movie really did better than the book, and that was with Sophie and the BFG. For as much as I love the book, I always felt like this wasn't the strongest element, along with other things I liked here, although here, that was the absolute best thing about it. For starters, they made the giant squiggly dialogue work much better, like I predicted and wanted for my top 10 list. And I love how he actually admits to not always being right instead of believing he always is. I was actually kind of surprised that he never once talked about the giants not eating other giants. And was even surprised to see Sophie wasn't the first human child he took. There was actually a boy before her that eventually got eaten, and it creates some rather intense scenes with him trying to protect Sophie, who too was given a lot more depth than in the book, even being said to have insomnia, which is kind of only mentioned once, but I think it works here, since it ties into why she was awake at the witching hour, and even more so with how she rarely dreams as it's the BFG's job to deliver them. And while I don't think the religious parallel with the Snozcucumber worked, I think the movie still was able to fit some of it in there, only instead of sacrifice, it felt a bit more about having faith, as if he was Sophie and the BFG having to trust each other throughout the story in order to defeat the giants. And a bit more when, I kid you not, they actually do the part near the end of the climax where you think it's over, the BFG returns Sophie to the orphanage to protect her, they have to mope and dope about it, slowing down the plot just to make conflict. Though it is rather short, and ends with Sophie putting her friendship to the giant to the test by jumping out a window, only for him to have been there all along to save her, which I'm sure can create a bit of a mixed message, but it wasn't as if it was a 3-story drop, and again, if you look at it more the leap of fate, it works out fine. So overall, while I don't think this movie was as good as it could have been, what it did right, it phenomenally did right. It knew what to stay faithful to, and it knew what to change up. Perhaps if it made the other giants seem much more threatening and done more to make the Snozcumber feel disgusting, then I probably would have considered this one of my favorite movies of all time. But as is, it does stand tall as one of my favorite movies to see this year. I hope this video is worth your time, and I hope afterward you get a chance to go see it. Cause it was scrumdiddly, 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 scrumdiddly. Oh, I give up.